Welcome to our cabin. I'm Maggie, and today me and my husband Eric are working on another project down here at our off-grid cabin. And today we're working on building our composting toilet. And the reason we're building a composting toilet is because here at our cabin we are completely off-grid, so we have solar and we also have no septic or well. And so because we have no septic, we decided to do a composting toilet. The composting toilet we're building today was simple to do, it was pretty quick to do, only took a few hours, and it is cheap. So some of the composting toilets out there are expensive, like the Nature's Head is over $1,000. So we decided to build it ourselves, and it cost us, when all said and done, around $150 for the materials and everything, and took us probably 3-4 hours to put together. So to build this composting toilet, we used about 2 2x4x8s for the frame, and then it wasn't a full sheet, but like a half sheet of 3/4 inch plywood for covering everything and building the lid and stuff. Then we also bought a toilet seat, a wooden one, and 4 hinges for the top so that it will open, and then a handle for the side compartment we were putting on to have for sawdust. So this pretty much is just 2 boxes put together, one side for the toilet and one side for the sawdust that goes in the composting toilet. The first step we did was measure our space. So we're putting our composting toilet right as soon as we go in the bathroom, and there's a little space between where our tub is going to go. So we measured the width to know what space we had to work with, and then we planned to make it 16 inches off the ground, which is a standard height for a toilet in Canada anyways. Sometimes they can go up to like 17 inches or a little taller. We wanted to make sure it was like 6 inches from the wall and then at least 13 inches to the center of the hole, and that way it wasn't too close to the wall. And then we left the extra space on the other side to be able to have the sawdust. So after we had everything measured, we went up to my grandfather's shop and cut out all our pieces so we could just assemble them when we get back down to the cabin. So we cut out all the 2x4s to size, and then I drew out all the pieces we would need on the plywood and then cut them out. I'll leave a list of all the sizes that we used for our composting toilet in the description, so if you're interested in building one, you can look at what we had cut and everything. You might want to make some adjustments depending on the space that you have available, but this is what we did for ours. After we had everything cut, we came back down to the cabin and first started with framing up the box. So we used the 2x4s along the front and then up the sides to give it some structure.
Right?
Yep. We screwed everything in with screws to keep it nice and strong. After the outside of the frame was done, we then put the divider in for separating the 2 sections, the toilet section and the sawdust section. we had the frame all put together, then we started to add the plywood, and along the back we put a 3-inch strip of plywood so that the hinges would have something to attach to for the lids. Then we put the plywood on for the box so that it would be framed in for the sawdust. We put a piece along the front of the whole composting toilet. There's it tight in.
Yep.
That's good. And then we put 2 pieces on the top for the lids. To attach the lids, we used some hinges. On each section we put 2 hinges and had a little gap so they would open easily and close easily. On the sawdust side, we also added a little handle so that when we need to, we'll be able to open it up easily and get to the sawdust that will be in that box. Does it shut tight?
Yep.
Perfect. After everything was attached, we then moved on to cutting out the hole for the toilet, and for this we measured over 13 inches for the center and then just used our seat as a template and drew around it so we know where to cut, and then Eric used the jigsaw to cut the hole out. Once the hole was gone, we then attached the seat, and the hardware for that, the bolts came with it. We first drilled out a couple holes to be able to put the bolts through and attach the seat to the composting toilet. Once the seat was on, we just had to add the plastic bin into the composting toilet, and it was all complete. Here we go. Before we move in and use this composting toilet, I will varnish the whole thing. I want to have it nice and thick varnish on it so that it's a lot easier to clean, but I'll do that once we get to the point where we're ready to paint the bathroom and everything like that. We have our composting toilet all finished and we're happy with how it turned out. Now that it's finished, we have put the bin inside here and it fits nicely, and we can lift up the top to be able to take it out to change it. And then on this side we have space for where our sawdust will go. So we're not going to be using this yet since we're not living here, but we will be in the future, and there'll be lots of room for the sawdust. So the reason that we went with this style of composting toilet is for a few reasons. Is that it's a way cheaper, and also we were recommended to do this by someone we are related to that's been living off-grid for a long time, and he's tried a lot of different types of composting toilets and helped other people with their off-grid setups, and he said that this is always his go-to for composting toilets, that the fancy ones sometimes look nice, but eventually the pee smell will get to be a problem when you separate it, because if you're not flushing it out with water, then things are sitting in there and just sometimes the smell gets bad. But this method, he has never had an issue with the smell, and we visited his off-grid house and he has children and there was no issue. It did not smell bad and it was in use, and so that's why we went with this method. So what you do pretty much is just have the bin there, and before you use it you make sure there's a nice layer of sawdust in there, and then every time the toilet gets used you add a little more sawdust on top, and as long as you regularly change it out then there's not an issue with the smell. And we thought about maybe putting a vent in under where the box is here, but he doesn't have one, and when we were there it smelled fine. So we'll add that in the future if we feel like we need it. Another idea we've had about a way to improve this composting toilet is to put a hatch through the exterior wall. So if we open up the toilet and we have our bin here, we can take it out through the front. One second. Like that. However, it's not ideal, and also the idea of carrying it through the house is a little bit gross, to be honest. So we would like to eventually put a hatch door back here, and that way we can open the door up like a little cubby from the outside of the cabin, slide it out, go put it in the pile, and then close it back up, and then you don't have to carry it through the house. But that's hopefully for a later date, and it'll still work for now, and we might try that in the future, but if this is working then we might just stick with this. We're happy to have this project done and excited to finish up our cabin build. As you can see, the bathroom is not completed, but we're going to be continuing working on our off-grid cabin build here in Canada. And if you want to see the rest of our build come together, we'd love to have you subscribe and follow along with our channel. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.